we grew up with a lot of dogma and indoctrination growing up in Western society. So that's why people have tough times sometimes integrating these experiences, because everything they were told in their life growing up about spirit and is a lie. As soon as you go on your first journey, you're like, wait a second, I know what I experienced, felt, saw, and heard. That's nothing the way they told me, and growing up my whole life.
Psychedelics are now acknowledged as bringing a major paradigm shift to our understanding of mental health and of human consciousness. But without some guidance, much can go awry. What are the psychological, somatic, and spiritual frameworks that can support us working with psychedelics? And who are the people stepping up to help guide us in this process? Join us as we discuss all this and more in Season 2 of Adventures of the Psyche. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures of the Psyche, where we meet with practitioners and guides as they help us understand how psychedelics are being used to navigate the healing journey. Today, we meet with Antonio Cuevas, who shares how mushrooms helped him navigate his teenage years and step into being a medicine man, working with many different substances and becoming a major support and guide for inner city and now international communities. Antonio Cuevas is Cacique, which means chief of a Yucayeke Afro-Taino village in New York City. He's a medicine man with a strong Taino lineage, originally from this island of Puerto Rico, and is best known for his hands-on involvement in helping awaken his community by uncovering their resilient strengths. He's a guide and practitioner and works with people one-on-one in group settings, social and sacred medicine circles, locally, nationwide, and internationally. Welcome, Cacique Antonio. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to hear your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been working with psychedelics for quite some time, and I'm very curious to hear what got you started on the medicine path.
Yeah, I started working with medicine, particularly the fungi, when I was young, maybe preteen into my teen years. Was my choice of medicine for a long time, and growing up in the inner city here in the New York tri-state area, there was always like a lot of trauma around us, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering in our communities. And I think coming across the fungi, I think we came across it maybe for escapism, and calling them psychedelics, thinking it's just a drug. At that time, not realizing that they're really medicines, and we benefit from it not just spiritually, but also mentally, what the psilocybin does in the brain. And for a long time, medicine was kind of like an escapism. But when we went to it in high dosages at early on age, we realized real quick that these weren't drugs. These were what we call now entheogenic plants. And it taught us a lot about ourselves growing up in the inner city and environment with a lot of violence and poverty and drugs, and just growing up around that pain and suffering. It gave us a lot of solutions to the things that we were doing. We would have so many self-realizations and downloads into how to even maneuver in the hood, in the ghetto, or how to be, how to survive. And also taught us, the fungi would teach us a lot about ourselves. So it was the fungi really helped keep the ego in check, keep our personality in check, and even in many ways kept us out of trouble. Because every time you went back to the fungi, they would show you something about yourself that you weren't really proud of or could even believe you did. So then you're just like, no, okay, stop. All right, I understand. I won't do it no more. I won't be like that, So the fungi were very interesting. They called little teachers for a reason. So I think it taught us a lot growing up, especially in the neighborhoods that we grew up in. We could easily fell into drug use, drug abuse, homelessness, so many variables for us when we growing up in the inner cities. And so for young Black, brown, and Latinos. So the fungi was a great teacher for me growing up and teaching me about myself and who I was and how I should behave in this world. Thank you, mushrooms.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. Tell me, and so how did that open the door for you? Because I know you've been working with a bunch of different medicines. How did that get you onto helping others and then also working with the elders?
Yeah, so growing up in a city, you have a lot of access to a lot of different substances. So throughout the years, I was able to always work with the more. I never worked with destructive drugs because that was all around me in the city. I never worked with any hardcore destructive drugs because we've seen the damage that done to the community and people and kids and families. So, but I was always interested in what they call psychedelics, and how they open your consciousness and offer altered states of consciousness. So even at that young age, I've had a lot of reverence for these substances. So I never really had what people call a bad trip or a bad journey. But over the years, people seen the change in me as well as I work with different medicines growing up until now. Growing up, people seen the change in me. And when people would come to me and say, Cacique Antonio, I don't know what you did, how you did it, but I've been watching the last few years. Like, I want in. Like, I want in. I'm tired of being depressed and stressed and worried and always in a struggling mindset. And so once I realized, I became an example of what people wanted, because in the inner city, people also don't want healing or don't even aware they need it. Many of them identify with so much trauma and pain and suffering that if you take that away from them, they don't even know who they are. So a lot of people don't even, one, know they need healing, or two, even want it. So the people that were coming to me were people that were serious. They tried everything. They tried pharmaceuticals. They tried the numbing every weekend with the alcohol and the drugs and the partying. That's numbing, right? Because with plant medicines, we're here to feel. So, well, as I work with different plants, different fungi, different amphibians, different cacti, I started to feel and I started to open up. And as people started coming to me, these people were desperate for healing. They were desperate for change. I realized that there was something here that I can teach people. So for many years, I learned directly from the fungi and the plants myself, working with them, and have been able to pass those teachings on to people in my community. And it has resonated with many of them, and it has helped them on their path. But in more recent years, it's become very important for me to keep tradition and culture alive and also learn from elders. So I worked with many different elders out there, from Peru to Mexico to Taino to Lakota, Toltec, and there's things that some elders have been able to teach me a little bit. Some elders have been able to teach me a lot. And just recently spent some time in Mexico. Spent about a month down there learning from some elders and really mastering my craft so that I can be a better service to my community. So now where I'm at now is really important for me to sit with elders and learn from them and see what they can teach me, what the plants, the fungi, the amphibians, and the cacti taught them.
What are your modalities? I know you have quite a few. Are there any that you find more effective with different kinds of trauma or specific to different issues? If somebody comes to you with deep depression, would you pick the ayahuasca over mushrooms, for example?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And got to go a little bit into detail of that because I have taken enough time to build a relationship up with many substances, many entheogenic plants, fungi, cacti, and amphibians. So learning directly from them for a long time before even trying to guide anybody to that medicine or how to work with that medicine. And what's been great was that the way I work, there's a consultation, there's an intake form, there's a whole process. You just can't, just because you can afford to come to my retreat in Peru or Mexico, don't mean that you can just come. We do a whole, I take my healing very serious, and I take my community's healing very serious. And I also, as a medicine man, I have to make sure that my community is safe. As a cacique, I have to look out for the community and make sure they're safe and they're guided in the right way and I can only guide them as far and as deep as I took them. And I've been far and I've been deep with many different of these plants and fungi and amphibians. And what I've seen over the years after the formal intake form and doing a consultation, everybody's healing looks different. Everybody's healing looks very different. Some people can go down to Peru for a few weeks, have 2-3 ayahuascas, and their life is completely transformed forever. You know, some people needs to work with different medicines. Some people need a ceremony a month of their medicine. Some people can do 2 or 3 ceremonies a year, and that healing lasts them a few years, and they only need to revisit these ceremonies every few years. So everyone's healing looks very different. And then I also get people that have done substantial amount of healing, and now they're looking more to explore into their consciousness, into their soul, into their spirit. And I've also been able to guide people properly, working with medicines in the higher dosages, because once you get into the higher dosages, it is really more about exploring your own divinity and your sacred self.
I'm excited about that part of it. It's like, you know, we talk a lot about how psychedelics are helping with healing, but also how psychedelics are helping with expansion and creativity, and divine connection to the divine is, you know, such a juicy place to play. Wonderful. Okay, and Emma, last question is, I'd love to hear about what excites you in the, like, I know you were mentioning some new modalities that you're exploring. Do you want to tell us about them?
Currently, I've been spending a lot of time in Mexico, learned this new combination of Cambufu, which is mixing the combo, the 2 amphibians together, the combo and the Bufo aurarius. And I witnessed, and experienced the beauty of combining these 2 divine medicines together. So I'm excited about working that. That's the medicines I'm currently working with at the retreat centers. You know, and also bringing in some really good quantum physicists that work with the plants, and they're able to really put in words what many of us experience on the entheogenic experiences. So this group of people that I've met, that I've been working with for the last few weeks, and we're gonna continue building bridges and working together, is bringing in these workshops during the retreats where they can do their workshops and teaching people the difference between the consciousness, the spirit, and the soul, which many of us don't realize there is a difference between the spirit and the soul. And then just the actual workshops and realizations they can walk us through are very powerful for healing modalities. And when you're working with the plants and having experiences, they're really helping people verbalize their experience, because now with their academic quantum physics lingo, people can understand it. So you don't have to be a quantum scientist. You don't even have to know anything about quantum mechanics at all. But when they speak these guided meditations and these teachings and workshop, it's just clicks that go off. No matter how spiritual we are, how much plant medicine, we grew up with a lot of dogma and indoctrination growing up in Western society. So that's why people have tough times sometimes integrating these experiences, because everything they were told in their life growing up about spirit and is a lie. As soon as you go on your first journey, you're like, wait a second, I know what I experienced, felt, saw, and heard. That's nothing the way they told me, you know, and you know, growing up my whole life. Yeah. So these workshops, these spiritual mentors that are basing their work off quantum mechanics, they also work with the plants. Yeah, they bring a lot. So this information is important.
I'm excited. What is the name of that program?
We're writing up the curriculum right now.
All right, it's still in development. Exciting. Okay, yeah. So where can people follow what you're doing and your work in Peru? Do you have a website?
Yes, on thecityoflightperu.org. Most of our retreats are going up there. Thecityoflightperu.org. On Instagram, I'm Cacique_Cuevas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.